The apartment smelled different. Claire noticed it the second she opened the door. Not bad, not unfamiliar, just different. Like someone had opened the windows for too many mornings without her there. She stood in the doorway longer than she meant to, one hand still gripping the handle of her suitcase. The hallway behind her buzzed softly with fluorescent lights, but inside the apartment, everything was quiet. Too quiet. For 3 years, this place had been filled with sounds she stopped noticing. The coffee machine at 6:40, Mark humming while looking for his keys, the television playing to nobody, the floor creaking near the kitchen every winter morning. Now all she could hear was the refrigerator, a low mechanical hum, steady, indifferent. Claire stepped inside carefully, like a guest entering someone else's home. The living room looked almost exactly the same. Gray couch, bookshelf by the window, the lamp she bought at a flea market because Mark said it made the apartment feel warmer. Only now it didn't. Now it looked staged, like a photograph of a life that had already ended. She placed her suitcase near the wall and glanced at the kitchen. One mug sat beside the sink. Just one. Her chest tightened slightly. For years, there had always been 2. She almost laughed at herself for noticing something so small. But small things were the reason she left. Not the fights, not the silence afterward, not even the way they slowly stopped touching each other. It was the tiny absences, the way he stopped asking if she got home safe, the way dinners became quieter every month, the way she began sitting in her car for 10 extra minutes before coming upstairs. People think relationships end all at once.
They don't. They end quietly, one ordinary day at a time. Claire walked toward the bedroom. The door was half open. She could already see that the left side of the closet was empty. Her side. The sight should have hurt more than it did. Instead, it felt strangely organized, like the apartment had already adapted to her disappearance. She pulled a sweater from the closet and folded it into the suitcase, then another. The room smelled faintly of detergent and dust. She remembered one rainy Sunday 2 years earlier when they spent the entire afternoon in bed watching old movies because the power went out. Claire had looked at her and said, "I hope we never become one of those couples who stop talking." At the time, she smiled. Now she wondered if that had been the beginning, because happy people don't usually say things like that. Unhappy people do. They just don't know it yet. Claire zipped another bag and looked toward the nightstand. His watch was still there, black leather strap, slightly scratched glass. She remembered buying it for his birthday, back when choosing gifts for him still felt exciting instead of stressful, back when she still believed effort could save people. A sudden laugh echoed faintly outside in the hallway. For a second, instinct kicked in. She almost called out, "Mark?" But the apartment stayed silent. The realization landed heavier than she expected. There was no one here waiting for her anymore. Not emotionally, maybe not even physically. She walked into the kitchen and opened the fridge. Mostly empty. Takeout containers, sparkling water, mustard, and one old yellow sticky note hanging near the freezer. Her handwriting. "Don't forget dinner with Mom Thursday." The smiley face hurt the most, not because it was sad, because it looked sincere. She stared at it for several seconds. That version of her still believed this place was permanent, still believed love could survive on routine alone. Claire peeled the note off slowly. The paper curled at the edges from age. She crumpled it gently in her hand, then stopped and smoothed it back out again. For some reason, throwing it away felt cruel. The afternoon light shifted across the kitchen floor. Dust floated through the sunlight in slow motion. She remembered dancing here once, barefoot, wine glasses in their hands, music playing from Mark's phone while pasta boiled over on the stove. They were laughing so hard neither of them noticed the alarm until it started screaming. It had felt like happiness, real happiness, which made this harder because nothing terrible had happened. No betrayal, no screaming, no dramatic ending, just erosion, like waves slowly wearing down stone. You never notice it happening until the shape is gone. Claire closed the fridge quietly. That's when she saw it. Near the window, her chair was gone. For years, the small wooden chair beside the kitchen table had been hers. She always sat facing the window while drinking coffee in the mornings. Now, in its place, stood a tall, green plant, a fiddle-leaf fig tree, healthy, bright, carefully positioned where she used to sit. Claire froze. Something inside her shifted instantly. Not anger, not jealousy, something worse, understanding. The apartment had continued without her. The empty space she left behind had already been filled. Not by another woman, not by anything dramatic, just life moving on. She looked at the plant for a long time. Its leaves glowed softly in the afternoon sun. Mark probably bought it because the corner looked empty. Simple as that. But to Claire, it felt like watching evidence of her own disappearance. That was the moment. Not when she packed her bags 3 weeks earlier. Not even when they agreed maybe some space would help. Not even when he stopped texting first. It was now, standing in a quiet kitchen beside a plant, realizing she no longer belonged inside the shape of this life. A strange calm settled over her, and somehow that calm hurt more than grief, because grief still leaves room for hope. This didn't. Claire sat down slowly at the table. The apartment around her looked peaceful, almost beautiful. She suddenly understood something terrifying. You can love someone deeply and still become strangers slowly enough that neither of you notices until it's over. She imagined Mark coming home later, probably tired, probably setting his keys beside the bowl near the door without thinking, maybe watering the plant, maybe heating leftovers in the microwave. Ordinary things. That was the cruel part. The world doesn't stop when love ends. The coffee still brews, the lights still turn on, people still go to work. Everything continues exactly the same, except one person wakes up realizing they no longer recognize their own life. Claire stood carefully and walked back to the bedroom for the last box. Inside were random pieces of herself: a charger, old photographs, a book she never finished reading, and at the very bottom, a dried white flower pressed between notebook pages. She stared at it silently. Mark gave it to her after their first apartment together. "You keep things alive," he told her once. The flower crumbled slightly in her fingers. So much of love depends on timing, meeting at the right moment, growing at the same speed, wanting the same future before it's too late. Sometimes two good people still fail each other, not because they were cruel, because they changed in different directions. Claire placed the flower carefully back inside the notebook. Outside, evening light began dimming the apartment into soft gold and shadow. She looked around one last time: the couch, the kitchen, the window, the plant. For a brief second, fear rose in her chest. The future suddenly looked enormous. Lonely apartments, new routines, empty weekends. But beneath the fear was something else: relief. Quiet, unfamiliar relief. Like finally setting down something heavy after carrying it too long. Claire grabbed her suitcase and walked toward the front door. She paused with her hand on the handle. 3 weeks ago, leaving felt impossible. Now it felt overdue. She stepped into the hallway and pulled the door shut behind her, softly. No hesitation, no tears, just the sound of the lock clicking into place. For a moment, she stood there, breathing quietly beneath the fluorescent lights. Then she turned and walked away without looking back. And somewhere between the elevator doors closing and the lobby lights flickering below, Claire realized she wasn't grieving the apartment. She was grieving the version of herself that once believed it would always feel like home.